Good evening. I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for joining us. Queen Elizabeth II has died. The scene playing out across our country, Canadian flags flying at half-mast, many mourning Her Majesty. And tonight you'll hear from Windsorites who met the Queen, memories of her visits to the Rose City. Buckingham Palace tonight in London, where people gather to pay their respects. The announcement was made at 1:30 this afternoon. A short statement from Buckingham Palace saying the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. The King and the Queen's family will stay there tonight before heading back to London tomorrow. And when she died at Balmoral Castle today, Queen Elizabeth was 96 years old. She had reigned for more than 70 years. The CBC's Margaret Evans looks back at her extraordinary life.
A golden thread running through the generations. That's how one of Queen Elizabeth II's many prime ministers described her reign, the longest in British history. By the time of her death, she was without doubt one of the most recognizable figures on the world stage, and one of the most private, an enduring contradiction. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary was born on April 21, 1926, a princess, third in line to the throne, but not expected to accede to it.
I think one reason for Elizabeth's great resilience was she had, for a member of the royal family, a relatively normal and, crucially, very happy childhood.
Elizabeth's destiny changed along with that of her father, who became King George VI, when his brother, Edward VIII, chose love over duty, abdicating the throne in 1936 to marry an American divorcee. Elizabeth's formative years were spent during the Second World War, just 13 when it began and 18 towards its end. It was also during those years that she set her cap at a young naval cadet named Philip, a member of the Greek royal family who also happened to be her third cousin.
Princess Elizabeth, as then she was, fell in love, there's no doubt about it, with a young man who looked like a Viking god. But she was dutiful enough to fall in love only within a selected gene pool.
They were married in 1947. Their first two children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, were soon to follow. Andrew and Edward would come much later. When her father died in 1952, Elizabeth and Philip were on a royal tour in Kenya. She returned home immediately.
Elizabeth is led here in solemn procession to be anointed Elizabeth II.
A queen and the head of Commonwealth at just 25. Elizabeth placed great importance on the Commonwealth throughout her reign, insisting it bore no resemblance to the empires of the past.
The Queen's standard is lowered.
But in a blow to the Queen, Barbados removed her as head of state in 2021, citing a desire to break with its colonial past once and for all. Other Caribbean nations pledged to follow suit. She visited Canada more than 20 times, the most significant trip in 1982, when she and then Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau signed the act that effectively brought the Canadian Constitution home. Many years later, she would meet Trudeau's son, Justin, with a twinkle in her eye.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
The golden thread, though, wasn't always in evidence. In the early 1990s, the British public was unhappy over the monarchy's price tag. And 3 of the Queen's children divorced, none more spectacularly so than the Prince and Princess of Wales, Charles and Diana. When Diana was killed in a Paris car crash in 1997, the Queen's critics accused her of misjudging the nation's deep affection for Diana. They blamed the Queen for a delay in lowering the flag at Buckingham Palace and said she was too slow to return from Balmoral, where she'd remained with Diana's children.
That definitely shook the institution, there's no doubt about that. I was there the day that the Queen returned to the palace, and people were worried, what would the crowds be like?
And it did prompt a shift from the Queen, who came out to meet mourners at Buckingham Palace and made a live address to the nation.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
More sadness would follow for the Queen in 2002, the year of her Golden Jubilee, when she lost both her mother and sister within months of each other. Prince Philip left to fill the void.
After that, there was really no one left who could speak to her on terms of equality, except him. No one who could call her Lilibet.
With the marriage of the Queen's grandson, Prince William, to Kate Middleton in 2011, the image of a more stable royal family emerged. But the trials of family would return to haunt her. A favoured son, Prince Andrew, suspended from royal duties in the wake of sexual abuse allegations in 2019. And in 2020, her grandson, Prince Harry, and his wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, walked away from their royal roles in a family split that included unspecified allegations of racism within the royal family.
I don't think you go on and on and on, as Elizabeth did, by worrying about the headlines. I think she was always absolutely focused on her duty and her service.
And duty would soon call again, this time in the form of the global pandemic. In a public address, the Queen summoned Britain's wartime spirit.
We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
But in the spring of 2021, after 73 years of marriage, Elizabeth lost Prince Philip. He was 99, his death a reminder to the nation of the Queen's own mortality. She emerged from that period a little smaller, a little more fragile looking. But the golden thread was still there, wending its way towards her Platinum Jubilee in 2022, the first British monarch to celebrate 7 decades on the throne. The Mall leading to Buckingham Palace thronged once again with appreciative crowds, and the Queen let her playful side out for the occasion, taking tea with Paddington Bear.
Perhaps you would like a marmalade sandwich. I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I. I keep mine in here.
She even tapped out a tune with a teaspoon. But the Jubilee was also notable for what the Queen did not do, absenting herself from some of the key events. Earlier in the year, Prince Charles read the speech from the throne for his mother for the first time, a foreshadowing of the changing of the guard to come. She was, at the end of her years, more popular than ever. The sheer longevity of Elizabeth II's reign is partly what embedded her so deeply in the fabric of the nation. And with her passing, Britain's test will be to understand its sense of identity without her. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
To Your Majesty, the heartfelt welcome to what we like to claim is Canada's friendliest city.
That's former Windsor Mayor Elizabeth Kishkon welcoming the Queen to Windsor in 1984. Thousands of people lined the streets for a glimpse of royalty, shaking hands and waving Canadian flags. The Queen even planting a tree along the riverfront. It was an official visit many in Windsor still remember, a morning stop into the city with a 10-minute stroll along the riverfront. Those memories many hold dear, and this loss a painful one to acknowledge.
I don't know. Bless her. Maybe she's in the arms of her beloved Philip.
That was the moment Kay Brown learned of the Queen's passing.
It's very upsetting for me. I mean, I can feel the tears coming up in my eyes now.
Brown, originally from the UK, has met the Queen a few times over the years. Fond memories she cherishes.
My husband proposed to me in the grounds of Windsor Castle. So the royalty have always had a trace in my life.
Brown met the Queen as a child and again during the Queen's visit to our city in 1984. It was after Brown moved here with her late husband.
Queen herself was a very nice person, very quiet and assuming. She has done such a lot for England. I am so pleased that she got to see her 70th Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee, because she deserved that. She was a wonderful woman.
Others remember that visit too. Donna Rivard is pictured here during that trip, in the middle holding the flag before the Queen, a great memory and honor for Rivard. Darren Bonici remembers skipping school to snap these photos of the Queen, saddened to hear today's news. Windsorite Alex Deans was recognized by the Queen, named a Queen's Young Leader in 2017, awarded for his use of technology to empower young people.
It was such a phenomenal experience and something that, especially today, I was reflecting that I'll take with me throughout my entire life. She was so interested in our work, was really just a wonderful moment, and I really have looked up to her, and will always will.
Can you speak more about how her work inspired you to do good in the world?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that I recognized before I really started any other work was just her sense of commitment and duty. And I think that's something that I really looked up to, the importance of something beyond yourself and giving beyond yourself. And she had this quality of hers where when she talked to you, you felt like you were the only person in the room. And I think that's an amazing skill and something that I'm striving to develop. Obviously, it's a sad day for us, but I think it's been a wonderful day to remember and take account of all of the wonderful work that the Queen did throughout her life. And she has left a lasting legacy in so many people.
People like British expat Salman Gull.
To be fair, I feel like I've lost like a family member in a sense. Feeling the mood is sort of rather low at the moment. I saw her when she visited the town of Scunthorpe, North Lincolnshire, which is my hometown, and all my friends who were delegates of the mosque, the Scunthorpe Islamic Centre, they met her face to face. We do have quite a close sentiment from the people of Scunthorpe, and the Muslims of Scunthorpe feel a very close sentiment with the Queen. I myself have got the royal family deep in my thoughts, and not only that, I've got the whole of the Commonwealth realms in my thought.
It's Charles in particular on the mind of Brown, who extends her heart to the royal family.
Especially to our new king, I wish to give him my condolences on losing his mother, because it's the hardest thing you can ever do, is to lose your mother.
Canada's political leaders are remembering the Queen and her contributions to this country, especially Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has known her most of his life. CBC's Ashley Burke reports.
A Prime Minister in mourning with a deeply personal statement about the Queen.
She was one of my favorite people in the world, and I will miss her so.
Justin Trudeau reflecting on the end of their 45-year relationship.
The moment the Queen puts her signature on this document.
He first met Queen Elizabeth as a small child when his father was Prime Minister. Over the decades, he's come to know her well and respect what she offered Canada. Trudeau's final meeting with the Queen in March at Windsor Castle.
I'm having trouble believing that my last sit-down with her was my last. I will so miss those chats. She was thoughtful, wise, curious, helpful, funny, and so much more.
The Queen visited Canada 22 times. No other country has hosted her more often.
Final signature of witness to the document that has...
She's called Canada a second home, and over her 70 years in power, a dozen of Canada's 23 prime ministers served under her, running from Louis Saint Laurent to Trudeau. Canada's first Indigenous Governor-General, Mary Simon, said the Queen was steadfast during tumultuous times and said, "When I was growing up, my grandmother revered the Queen, as did so many in the Arctic. She would tell us stories about Her Majesty, about her role and her commitment."
Queen Elizabeth, beyond her public duties, was a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. And the loss of an elder in the family is a very dramatic and traumatic loss.
The Conservatives' outgoing leader, Candice Bergen, said the Queen was an active participant in Canada's evolution, and many will say today that her passing marks the end of an era. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
And we will continue to share stories across CBC about the Queen on our show, online, and on Windsor Morning. And we also want to hear from you. How are you feeling today? Are there memories that stand out? What role does the monarchy play in your life, in Canada's future? Email us at windsor@cbc.ca. In local news now, a former City of Windsor firefighter is fighting to get her job back. Natalie Seal worked with the city for more than 15 years. She's one of 20 former city workers who launched a lawsuit last month. The group claims that the city's COVID-19 vaccine policy violated their rights and freedoms. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reports.
It stings, absolutely, and it not just stings the pocket, I mean, it stings right down to the soul.
Natalie Seal remembers being hailed as a hero as she worked on the front lines for nearly 2 years of the pandemic. In January, she was fired for not disclosing her COVID-19 vaccine status, as was required under the City of Windsor's policy.
So I think that we have a right to medical privacy. I would never do it to somebody else, and so I expect that privacy. I did what was right for me. I wasn't going to, no amount of shame, guilt, or coercion by the City of Windsor was ever going to break who I am as a person or what I believe.
Seal has 2 children under the age of 10. She was the only income earner for her family. Being fired with cause meant she couldn't file for EI. In an email, the city said it wouldn't comment on individual cases, especially ones that are in litigation, but it said it put a vaccine policy in place to protect the community. The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit has said public service workers should be fully vaccinated. Seal isn't the only one facing consequences. The city said in January that more than 100 people were fired for not complying with the policy. Now, 20 of them, including Seal, have launched a legal battle. They say the city's vaccine policy violates their constitutional rights. The Windsor Professional Firefighters Union says 4 firefighters were fired. The union says it disagrees with the policy and calls it discriminatory when compared to Windsor Police. The Police Services Board suspended their vaccine mandate, allowing officers on unpaid leave to return to work in July.
You talk about discriminatory. Are you kidding me? Like, what? Police officers, they're not a frontline worker? To me, if that doesn't scream discrimination, I don't know what does.
The union says it's seeking arbitration, but the earliest date is next year. In Toronto, a similar case played out with city firefighters. At the end of August, an arbitrator said a vaccine mandate was valuable, but that the city shouldn't have immediately fired people. Meanwhile, the lawyer for the case in Windsor says he expects more people to join the lawsuit. He says the city is looking to have the case dismissed. A court date hasn't yet been set. As for Seal, she hopes to get her job back.
I felt like this was a last-ditch effort for justice.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
To Saskatchewan now. Fears have eased following the deadly stabbings there. Today, the chief of the James Smith Cree Nation is calling for more support to help combat addiction and violence in Indigenous communities.
We ask that we have our own tribal policing. We ask for awareness in addictions. We ask for treatment centers.
Chief Wally Burns made his comments as part of his response to the deadly stabbings that took place on Sunday. 10 people were killed and 18 were wounded in the attacks in James Smith Cree Nation and the nearby village of Weldon. The main suspect, Miles Sanderson, evaded police for 3 days. He was arrested yesterday but died shortly after being taken into custody. It's believed he also killed his brother, Damian Sanderson, who was also a suspect. Take a live look outside at our city today as people reflect on the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And we'll have more in our show tonight on that, including rare video of her visit to Windsor back in 1959. Stay with us. Kim McDonald joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. And Kim, we're really on a roll here because it's another beautiful sunny day.
We are on a roll. Kids are back to school, but it still really feels like summer, doesn't it? Temperatures normally this time of year about 23.9. We're expecting a forecast of 28 degrees Celsius on Friday. What a way to head into the weekend. Our record 36.5, but we have to go way back to 1978 for that. And yes, the sun is setting a little earlier again, 7:54. But a big ridge of high pressure is dominating our forecast for the next few days. Yes, there's a front well to our northwest, but that high is keeping it at bay at least for the next few days. So the beginning of the weekend is looking quite lovely. Here are your evening temperatures. Nice evening to get out. 23 degrees in Windsor, 21 in Chatham, 21 in Leamington. The winds are going to be light, coming in from the east by Friday evening. Just a nice day all in all. The UV will be high, so remember that. There's our overnight temperatures dropping down to 16 degrees through the overnight. Good open the window kind of weather. For the afternoon, 28, as I mentioned, sunshine with a few clouds, not completely blue sky, but a decent day all in all, and a little bit of humidity as well. So it will feel like 32 for the afternoon in Windsor, which is pretty much the kind of summer that we've had. Now Saturday gets even warmer, 29 degrees for a daytime high. Again, generally sun and cloud, and we're watching this front. So right now it looks like it'll be holding off for the entire weekend, and the rain will come on Monday, but if it speeds up, Sunday may look a little dicey, but right now things are looking good.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kim.
You're welcome.
When we come back, more on the death of Queen Elizabeth and her time here in Windsor. Stay with us. Tonight, we're looking back on Queen Elizabeth and her connection to Windsor, and we end with her first visit to our region as the Queen. A police escort for the royal visit in 1959 here, just a few years after she took the throne. And you can see the Queen and Prince Philip driving in their motorcade down Tecumseh Road East. Mike Evans dug up this video for us. She visited every province and territory during a 45-day tour. They eventually also arrived at Deep Park, where they were greeted by Windsorites. And we're going to end with this video tonight with the royals boarding the royal yacht Britannia. I'm not sure if we'll get to that particular moment, but we remember the Queen on this day. She was born in 1926 and died September 8th, 2022.